TikTok. Mitch and Morgan, we're going to start with the vodka.
Okay. Which one is that labeled as?
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Get some more. Let's get some more.
Why, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Heather Mullins of Knowlton House. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Mike, we have everyone here tonight. This is a rarity, and that's because it is something good. Before we go any further, Mike, do you want to tell people about the Bar Cart Co-op? And I'm going to apologize to people on Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg's lovely thing did not want to update, so I'll repost the chat to there and live stream to there later, even though I updated it before. Sorry, we have fights with him every now and then.
Yeah.
So, Mike, would you like to tell people about the Bar Cart Co-op, and then we will kick off this lovely tasting?
I sure will. We are, and again, having the old person moment because they moved all the buttons again. Every time they do an update, they move them and they won't let you put them back. Okay, we are proud members of the Bar Cart Co-op, which is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. There are blind tastings, distiller panels, discussions of special collaborations, and the usage of unique grains. Bar Cart Co-op has educational and fun episodes for your enjoyment. And the oldest show in the group is Distillers Talk, hosted by Christy Atkinson and Alan Bishop. It is a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent that gets into deep and sometimes off the rails and back again discussions with their interviews. New episodes typically arrive at the end of the work week. And if that one is not nerdy enough, please check out One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. This is where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, entire mash bills, equipment, or methodology. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe. And then there is the Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. They have conversations with musicians, writers, distillery folks, and common folks about music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all your platforms, including YouTube. Then we have If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about the spirits and paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get the 5 seasons that are already in progress. And last, but certainly not least, we have our friend David Levine in the Whiskey Ring podcast. David does good interviews. David takes really good notes. David has very good award shows, and David does all the things that we won't do.
That's true. All right. Now we're done with that. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for being here, and especially Heather for being with us tonight and for being as incredibly generous as you were, because we have 5 bottles to taste from and also some cheese, which is incredible.
We are a cheese fan. Can't miss the cheese.
You nailed the white person. I would say trifecta with gin, cheese, and vodka, right? Like, it's pretty exciting.
Well, thanks for stepping outside your box tonight, guys, because I know you're normally a whiskey show. So to go into gin and vodka, we appreciate you having us.
Well, we branch out quite a bit. Just didn't want to rebrand the show name. But so Heather, how did you get into? I was going to say, let's talk about your back, because I know in college you almost kind of started leaning into I don't want to say the spirits industry, anyways. But how did you decide to go to college? What you're going to college for?
Sure. So I actually don't think I was leaning into the spirits industry to start. I have an undergrad that I doubled in chemistry and biology. So I knew I wanted to go into science, but I didn't know what I wanted that to be. And I actually worked for a lovely company that's a supplier into the spirits industry and the beer industry. They do fermentation and filtration products. So I started out by helping brewers, distillers, wineries optimize their fermentations and their filtration pieces of the puzzle. And that slowly led me into an obsessive hobby as well. And then I went back to school for my master's in brewing science.
So full discretion went to your talk at Distill America, and you put UK, in brackets where you went to school. And I am originally from Kentucky, and UK means University of Kentucky. And I was about to be like, great, we can talk about Kentucky. And then my brain kicked into gear, and I was like, oh no, she meant the country. Oh yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I went to
Way better than University of Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'll say that, even though Morgan might come downstairs and thump me.
So yeah, the University of Nottingham in the UK, as well as then I attended Heriot-Watt University to work on my master's coursework for distilling itself.
Nice.
That's actually, that's where I discovered milk sugar-based spirits, was in the UK. There's a really great family company there that does a vodka called Black Cow. And it's a similar story where they're a dairy family. One of the brothers is a dairy farmer and decided to kind of branch out and move into the milk sugar spirit space. And that's the first time I had one that I was like, this could be really something special, right? And so that kind of led me down a windy road to where we're sitting today.
Well, that's what I was going to be like, was there a spirit or something you had that kind of tripped your trigger for that? Because it's, like you said, it's not widely done in worldwide. It's, pretty restricted. We're lucky to have a few in the state here, but in our country, but
right.
It's not widely done. So
yeah, maybe a dozen to 15 worldwide,
mm-hmm.
and you'll normally find it in a place who really specializes in dairy. That ends up to be a branch from there, because certainly you need a concentrated source of milk sugar as a starting base. So it makes sense that that's where the few spots have really cropped up, and then my fermentation background helps complete the puzzle in my opinion.
So did your discovery or your personal discovery of distilling the milk sugars, did that spark the cheese making, or did that make you look for a cheesemaker?
Are you hoping that I'm going to say I met my husband on like Cheesemaker's Only dating app or something? Is there one of those?
I wish there was, but
probably be popular, right? No, I did actually meet my husband first. More of a traditional story, a good friend of his married a friend of mine from college. So it was not for the love of the cheese making that I met him, but it's
benefit, right?
Maybe his love of beer brought him to me instead. But either way around, we both won.
But I was gonna say, what is one of your first spirits that you fell in love with? I was gonna say, what's the one that like kind of tripped your trigger to go down that whole path, anyways?
Sure. So, my love of spirits actually started with whiskey. I'm a whiskey girl. I love whiskey. So I guess I'm talking to the right audience right now. And gin and vodka have really come into the picture in the last 15 years for me, that I've really grown to love those spirits as well. But starting out, whiskey, especially, again, going to grad school in the UK, I love Scotch. I love Speyside style Scotch, like something that's a little more balanced. It's not such a big peak forward front. That's where my jam lives. But then this has kind of developed a passion for vodka and even more so for gin along the way, as you've really I've been able to discover what that can be. And certainly being in the UK helps with that too. Obviously, gin really took over in the UK a lot earlier than it has in the US. Yeah,
I was going to say, and then you get a much better variety point there if you were just to go to a bar. And like here for a while, it was pretty strict. And that's why I think we were all gin phobic for a while, because all we had gotten was, as I put it, my mom had me a drink at a wedding reception she didn't like, and that's because it tasted like the aerosol cleaner, like the pine tree thing, and you would just lick it and dip it. That's what it tasted like, and I was afraid of gin ever since.
Yeah. That's such a common story for people that come to the distillery. I think the most surprising thing that happens when people come to our distillery is finding out it turns out they like gin, or even if they don't like gin straight, they love gin cocktails because of the depth and interest that it can add to it. Because exactly what you said, someone's mom or someone who loves gin handed them a really traditional gin, maybe with just some tonic. They might not even like tonic or gin. And then you combine those together, and it turns out that they have already decided that they don't like gin, and all it is pine needles. So it's great to see when people can kind of have their eyes open on what else gin can be. Yeah.
I was one of those people.
I get you.
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
well, we had on this. Well, it was on this show almost 4 years ago, because we were the original three of us, not gin people, and we had Fred Swanson was on again, and Fred's like, you're gonna like gin. I promise you, you're gonna like gin. And so then we had the Death's Door, and then he's like, through his
And some
talking
cocktails,
about
too,
it
then.
and cocktails, a few cocktails, because he said because of the high coriander in Death's Door, it pairs better with orange, and then they do the little smash of mint that's in there too, and that meant we had to try it with both lime and orange, and with mint and without. So next thing you know, we had 6, and and we're like, we like Fred and we like gin.
Yeah.
So, but that was good, because that let me know too that, like any other flavor thing, okay, what do I like? I know if there's gin with coriander in it, I will lean towards that first versus a lot of others. And and last year trying your stuff for the first time, because I tried the spirits just neat, and then I thought, oh wow, how cool how you guys had the little snacks to go along with it. But there was I don't drink vodka, but there are 3 vodkas now that I will drink, and yours is one of them.
Love to
Which
hear
is
that.
where we're starting with too, right
Yes,
now.
it is.
If you haven't, let's start with this one. And why so? Because let's finish your thought process, Mike. What about it did you like?
So there's one, and I didn't have vodka again this year. I had 2 gins, and I was being picky again at Distill America, but that's another story. But what I remembered about the vodka was there was almost like a vanilla fluff nose to it,
Mhm.
and then I remember just how silky it was, and I just sipped it again, and I was like, oh yeah, it is very silky. And is that something from the cheese, or is it just your process?
I mean, certainly we take a pretty careful distillation approach, but I really do believe that particularly the silkiness of it, that mouthfeel, that roundness, is something special coming from the milk sugars. I firmly believe that that's the source of that. Just like, I mean, if you think about potato vodkas, wheat vodkas, people will tell you there's a nuance that comes through from that raw material. Plenty of people will say the same thing you did, where they get the vanilla on the nose. I don't even know if it's vanilla for me. For me, it always comes back to that mouthfeel, that just silky roundness, that character that comes through for me.
For me, it comes through as like a creamy, but almost like a meringue on a lemon meringue pie, like that kind of textury, like kind of feel coming through, which is what it's something other. It's gives a vodka depth in its own right, rather than just being bland or almost blended out to non-existence to why on some and then I go to the other realm. I hate the other realm too, where I don't need 72 different types of vodka flavored garbage.
Yeah.
Like,
So how much, whether you can, if you can't say, then that's understandable, but how much of the milk sugars are what makes this product?
All of it.
It is. Okay.
So the vodka is 100% the milk sugar, the special yeast strain that I use to ferment that, and that's it. That's all that's in that vodka.
Wow.
So for me, it's almost like a mild marshmallow fluff, like that vanilla. Just it's so creamy, so luscious.
And I mean, people will often say, like, so how much sugar is left in it? I said, there's no sugar in it. There's no sugar left at the end of the things. Certainly sugar doesn't distill over in the still, and we don't add any sugar afterwards. There's nothing added afterwards. It's just that natural nuances that are coming over.
sorry, I'd pour a smidge more. That's all.
So with the milk sugars though, are they the milk sugars coming off of all the cheese? Is it pretty much across the board, or some cheese is better than others for it?
That's a good question. My husband has had me like track a little bit about when I'm getting the whey coming over. So the milk sugar obviously is left behind in the whey, right? They use that whey for a variety of fantastic things. They pull out the protein, the cream, etc. And then there's also this milk sugar, the lactose that's left over. So far, I have not seen a difference of what cheese was made before it came to me. So the milk all started in Wisconsin farms that are in a 90-mile radius. And so whether it's the fact the milk sugar hasn't changed as a result of the cheese, but I don't get any different flavor nuances coming over depending on the cheese that they were making.
Okay. So that was like a big one.
question.
I
Yeah,
had no idea. I was like, man, maybe Gouda throws something different. I mean, like,
sure.
sorry, I'm not. I'm
No,
only
it's a totally fair
on
question.
chemistry, and then the world
Yeah,
gets
if you
different.
think about the cultures they use, they're different depending on what cheese strain they're going to use, of course. But when they send me the whey, we do pasteurize the whey before then adding our yeast to it, because we don't want any bacteria or yeast that's coming over that maybe it picked up along the way, impacting our flavor that we're looking for. So we want our yeast to do all of the work.
So vodka is supposed to be flavorless. So you distill it a whole lot of times.
I do.
Have you noticed either the more or less you distill it, does it change either the flavor profile or the mouthfeel for you? And did you settle on this for a reason?
It's a good question. And I will say some of it was the more control I have, the better in my mind. So, for example, when you distill vodka, we use a hybrid still. First, we put it through a beer column. A lot of people call it a bourbon column, which just concentrates that alcohol. We start with like a 7% distiller's beer, that fermentation of that whey. And then we put it through a beer column just to concentrate it to about a 60% clear spirit. And from there, it goes into our hybrid still. And our hybrid still has 40 distillation plates in it. And we purposely chose a very high number. In part, honestly, there wasn't an easy way for us to replicate that on a very small scale. But if you think about the way that heads, hearts, and tails come out, and I'm sure you guys have talked about heads, hearts, and tails plenty on your cast before. But if all of those components, the heads components, so the methanol, the acetone, for example, are mixed up with the alcohol to begin with, and they climb so much faster than the other components, that the more plates I give it, basically the more mini distillations that are happening, the more time there is for those heads I don't want to separate and come out of the column first. And so although I can reach vodka standards, so at least 95% alcohol is what the government says I have to have during distillation, I can reach that by about 20 plates. I put 40 plates in on purpose because we really wanted to be very careful about being able to cut out those heads and cut out those tails and just keep the good stuff we were looking for. So having those plates really helps with that process.
I think so. I got since I said we had cheese, I got the 2-year-old cheddar.
Yes.
And the creaminess of this just overlapping is
Yes.
It's insane. I don't know if you're getting that. Someone else got smoked Gouda, I think Mike got, and you guys got a white cheddar.
Yeah, we're the white cheddar.
How old is your white cheddar? You didn't get the 14, did you? The 14 is my favorite. 14-year-old? No, you're younger than that. Their cheddar, I can be a braggy when it comes to the cheese factory because I have no part of it, but I will say the aged cheddars that they make at the cheese factory are my absolute favorite. Yeah. My husband and his brothers and his dad, they do a fabulous job with them.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird for me.
Yeah.
It pulls the vanilla out of the vodka. So it goes from like marshmallow fluff to like a savory vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I threw some other cheese in too, because I've got the smoked Gouda and Parmesan, and I've got a Havarti that I smoked,
Sure.
and there's a lot of smoke to it. But that one I was surprised because I thought, let's see what it does. It actually made the vanilla come out even more.
Really?
Which I thought was really nice.
I would not have thought to put the smoke with it, and that's great to know.
That was one of my questions too. Have you thought about, because I know there was a smoked Gouda as one of the cheeses. Have you thought about smoking any of the spirits?
We have not. We certainly smoke some cocktails in house.
Okay.
And for example, we always do, not always, but depending on the season, we'll do a smoked cherry old fashioned where we have a house smoker. We do a lot of fresh smoked meats here at our restaurant. So along with it being a distillery and having a tasting area, we also have a full scratch restaurant here. And so that we use that house smoker for smoking a lot of random things. But so far we haven't smoked spirits themselves, except for laying them in a barrel, for example, that might have previously held an occupant that smoked.
Okay.
I think this is my new favorite snack, the cheese with vodka. I wonder if this is acceptable at work.
That's safe.
In Wisconsin, maybe. Wait, you're not in Wisconsin. Are you in Wisconsin right now?
or Nebraska, sadly, but might have to ask my boss about this one.
It's gonna be one of those ones where she slides your drink and takes a drink of it and just like raises an eyebrow.
Yes. Your productivity is very high, Morgan. However, This is it's very, very. I mean, I don't remember having the vodka with. I don't remember specifically what I had it with when I had it 2 years or last year, but I know there was nuts. I want to say there was nuts and some chocolate last year.
Perhaps there were also plenty of botanicals and citrus components to be able to dress your drink. My sister handled that piece of the puzzle, and she's fantastic at her job. So, of course, everything is always set up. Hopefully, you agreed that it was set up nicely for.
It was very refreshing because everyone else had their stuff out. Nothing gets anyone there, but it was very clear something was different. Yeah.
Well, that setup was neat. I liked it when you're bringing something like different to it that stands out at the table.
I mean, those kind of shows are a challenge too. I mean, certainly you guys know better than most that walking around drinking straight spirits all day long can be also palate fatiguing pretty quickly.
Yes.
And so
that's why I was picky.
So looking for something that is a little bit different, and then also even the idea that we could dress that into a mini cocktail, we thought was maybe better for some folks and not just drink straight spirits as well.
Yeah. That was neat. All right, I'm gonna make us pour the next one up here. Do we want to do the meadow cut or the woodland dry?
Your call. Are you asking me or are you asking me?
I'm gonna ask you. I say I'll yield. I'll yield.
Let's go meadow. Let's go sunnier and then work into the woods.
So this meadow is a more recent release, correct?
It is. Yes. So when you guys saw me at the show last year, this release was not out yet.
Okay.
This was actually a release I was supposed to put out in late spring of last year. And it took me till fall to feel like, yes, that's it. I finally there. So I obsess a bit. And obviously fall, if you smell and taste this, you'll find out it's a very sunny gin option. Fall's not probably the right time to launch it, but it was when it was ready.
Hey, you got something letting it wait too long or too early is a big problem.
I mean, so I'm a very big nerd, and there's a very large software company called Blizzard, and they released some amazing video games back in the day. And they said a rushed game is never finished, but a delayed game is eventually perfect. So
I like that.
This was back before the internet was kind of a thing. So like you couldn't just be like, oh, don't worry, guys, we'll fix it later, and everybody can get the fix on the internet.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
You're right. This is brighter. I'm getting lemongrass, and there's like a little bit of that creaminess to it as well too. I think that's part of the pull through, but it's almost like that hint of like the edge, the top part of a lemon meringue pie, not that edge, but the top like crust part where you get a little bit of baked, but it's mostly the sugar and the lemon and then like a vanilla bean. Sorry. Maybe I'll sniff it too
I love
hard.
what people are getting.
I get kind of key lime pie.
Okay. I can see that.
Also, like, this is very citrus forward. Also get kind of some grapefruit. Definitely some orange, almost like an orange creamsicle though, because of the creaminess that comes through.
Sure. Yeah, the vodka is the base for all of our gins. So certainly I hope there's some creamy pull through that comes from that vodka. And Morgan, you're right on the head when it comes to citrus. That was my goal with this one. I wanted this one to be sunny. The name of it is Meadow Cut. I wanted it to feel like you were in a meadow, right? Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of citrus in there, including a lot of fresh orange peel. That we juice here, and we hand off the juice to our hospitality team, but then we keep the peel itself to put in our botanical basket and really just kind of try to bring forward that nice bright citrus. Are you guys getting any floral at all?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Cardamom in here?
No cardamom, although my sister would love for me to put cardamom in because she's a huge cardamom fan. But there's a lot of wildflower in here. So we were trying not to go for that. It's so common to go with
elderflower? Sorry.
Elderberry, actually. There's elderberries in it. There's slowberries and elderberries. There's also a lot of heather as well as chamomile.
That is son of a bitch.
Is that what you were getting to?
Yes, that was part of that in there where I'm like, it smells like something night like that, like little bit of nighttime warmth to it that I was not.
I was gonna say hibiscus, but it's the chamomile.
Damn it.
I didn't want to go cultivated flowers. So many people go rose, for example, rose water, rose. I wanted it to feel, again, if I was trying to go for a meadow, I wanted that wildflower note to it. So we tried so many different wildflowers trying to figure out what's the right fit in there. And ultimately the heather and the chamomile just were really married really nicely and left that meadow vibe to it. To me, I almost, although hay is not the goal of it, there's almost like a faint hay note in there too that I get.
Wait. I'm glad you guys didn't do the rose and you guys tried with all the other ones, because I would think rose washes stuff out. And it sounds weird, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't allow anything to shine when I see it in a lot of stuff. So I'm
It's very overpowering flavor.
Yeah. Can be. Yeah.
okay. Sorry.
So you went with fresh citrus rinds. Why fresh, and why not like dried or anything like that to kind of like concentrate the flavors? Or did you find fresh? How did you discover what worked better?
So there's plenty of dried citrus also still that goes into the pot for maceration. But then I just couldn't replicate that really fresh nose and brightness of the orange unless I used the fresh orange. I just felt like with any sort of dried rinds, I couldn't get that same flavor to come through so brightly. And so there's actually the fresh orange peel as well as a little bit of cucumber in there, which I don't know that cucumber jumps at you, but it's a underlying rounding note. And you're saying, yes, you got it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you need those notes. It can't just be.
And so
Definitely on the
those-
flavor of it for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So this on the nose, there's, you get the memory of it, and there was a specific memory of hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park and having trail mix with berries. And so then you've got all the trees and everything. You've got the water. You've got all that stuff. This is, it's a very vivid memory of doing that. It's like, I feel like I am out doing that again. It's lovely.
Thank you.
So good. I'm pumped you came out with this because I got your the
Woodland. Yep.
Thank you. Last year, and I went hunting for this one this year. Couldn't find it. Ended up picking up the vodka, but I love the more citrus flavor. I've had 2 drinks and I cannot speak. All right. I love the more citrus flavored gins, and this is just right up my alley. I thoroughly enjoy this.
I mean, that's what's really fun about these contemporary, new world, botanical, whatever you want to name them. It is pretty fun that they can be whatever you want them to be. And certainly my take on the expression is very different than someone else's take would be. And that's cool and that's fun. I will also say it makes my science brain explode a little bit because there's so many options. Like if you think about all of the botanicals that you could pick from, there's so many choices. And I like to only move one piece of the puzzle at a time. So we had, 200 and some prototypes on just a little stills in the lab before I ever decided to scale it to anything bigger than that. So hence the delay and release, because I was busy obsessing over exactly those combinations and how much of each and what would give me the feeling. Like I loved, Mike, when you described that hike and how you felt while it was happening, because I was looking for a distinct feeling for me. And for me, it was being in a meadow, right? And trying to recreate that. So I knew when we started developing it, I knew what I wanted the end game to make me think of. And the question was, what components will help you get down the trail to that point? And that's a tricky path when you think about contemporary gins and all the options you have available.
Yeah.
So like what you were, sorry. Like,
I was gonna. So with your gins, you obviously you guys are making your own cocktails.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred gin cocktail because of your spirits, and do you have a preferred tonic that you would say to use that pairs better with yours? Because it is different. It's not a traditional gin. There's a silkiness on here that I would think like the best choice or the Schweppes might not do a good job.
Yes, fair question. I actually, when it comes to the meadow cut specifically, I think that less is more. I think that experience you get with the meadow cut, we have found when we are doing our cocktail development that we want the meadow cut to really sing on its own. And so we try to just pair a couple complementary flavors, but not go overboard. For me, I honestly love the meadow cut just with not even tonic, just with club soda and a twist of orange so that I can really just experience that flavor itself. The woodland, I spin it a lot of different ways, but in the meadow cut, I just like the simplicity of it. And maybe it's because for me, the meadow cut is naturally something I like to, on a sunny day, sit out on a patio and drink, that I want it that simplistic. But yeah, I think less is more in that scenario. But your question about tonic, we do use plenty of tonic here, obviously at the distillery, and we use Top Note out of Milwaukee. So I think I if we can go local in Wisconsin, we love to do so. And so Top Note makes a nice product that they have a few different tonics actually that have slightly different expressions of it.
Yeah.
I would tend to think that would be kind of neat, Emily. I wouldn't.
With elderflower. Oh yeah.
Well, no, but this is neat because it's one of the spirits that, as you're sipping on it, as it's going in, where you're talking about where I was taking you, Mike, you can feel different things starting to light up in your brain. Like it's starting to pull factors and thoughts and in and out rather than just enjoying it. It's starting to make you think about what's going on. And the way it comes out, sorry, I'm the citrus side of things too, so I absolutely love this. But the way it opens up and then kind of rounds down, and you just get a little bit of like the standard gin note for a split second that's rounded out at the end, more likely from the whey, which is why I love it. It has a very nice encompassing effect. And sorry, I'm going to shut up because otherwise I'll ramble till we get to the mezcal, so I'll be quiet. Sorry. I'll let Mitch and Morgan talk.
He's giving it away as finale yet.
I feel like that is citrus and sunshine. I think you nailed it, Heather, about it's a porch sipper, right? Sitting out on the patio under the sunshine, just sipping that. I wish, outside right now, sipping that is what makes me want to do. That is fantastic. I think that, it has a lot of excellent, citrus notes, but I also like kind of those floral notes that you were talking about. But they're also, I like the fact that you chose wild floral notes rather than, like rose or, ones like that. I think it gives it that kind of more earthy undertones to it, which is a little bit of a different flavor profile to it. So, and with the cheese, oh man, this might have to be like mid-morning snack number 2 at work.
I'm surprised how much you said there's elderberries in this. Like I had that on a steak, alpaca steak when I was in Peru, and like that is totally where like I'm getting that type of glazed finish on the back end of this. It is really neat how that all the citrusness, but that like floral undertone and because that's more of a chocolate, different herbal berry. It's neat how that's just hiding in the background and kind of comes to fruition on the finish.
I think with gins in general, there's always a few notes that you don't necessarily pick them up by themselves. But what I've certainly found throughout the development of any of our gins that we've done is that there's these moments where I think, well, I can't actually taste this X component, right? So maybe we don't need it. And then I try making the batch without it, and you realize you might not be able to immediately identify that flavor, but there was some depth that it was bringing to the table that you feel its absence if you take it out, right? So there's a few of those notes in this botanical profile that I don't know that I would immediately recognize them. And yet, if they weren't there, the gin tastes very different.
See that?
Yeah.
To me, the cucumber, I feel like, is doing a lot of backseat lifting. I don't know if that's a phrase. I don't know, but it's a lovely
behind the scenes work, right?
Yeah, but there you go. 2 drinks and I lose words, right?
Wait till we get to number 5.
You can do it, Mitch. That's not that bad.
I mean, I know I can do it. I'm just gonna.
We've seen you.
A lot worse.
All right, here. So
that's delicious.
I'm gonna swing. Well, What I liked about it with the cheese is a little more of like the herbal floral notes came out. Don't know that, can't explain why on that one, but that was more of that came out on the tail end after mixing and kind of going back and forth. I wasn't expecting that, but that was kind of an interesting come about from that. Oh, shit, that was way too much. Nothing.
Nothing to see. Nothing to see.
It was not way too much.
Yeah, just move it along. Move it along.
It was just enough. Is what that one was. And so in the interest of time, I'm going to move us on to the Woodland Dry that you guys have as well too.
Ooh.
Now, this is the one you guys had at last year's Distill America, correct?
Yes, this one's been being distributed for about a year, and then the Meadow, as Mitch mentioned, is hard to find yet because we've just started launching it with our distributors, so it hasn't made it out to all the same spots as the Woodland. But
So, what is your distribution?
just Wisconsin wide. We distribute with Badger and Frank Liquor.
Okay.
I was very sad because I went to Total Wine and I got your vodka, and then I saw the Woodland Dry Gin, and I was like, and
Yes, it'll get there. Tell him you want it. I will say the Meadow, is going to slowly leach out there, and I think that places that Total Wines will eventually get it, I'm sure. But some of the places that are not as gin centric, they're not as quick to grab onto the Meadow cut being something different. They're more likely to grab onto the standard. But
And as we get into this, would you mind telling people how you guys came up with the 10 Head brand name?
sure, absolutely. So 10 Head is really a nod back to our family's dairy history. So Patrick Mullins sold his 10 head of cattle in Ireland back in 1849 to immigrate to the U.S. during the potato famine and become a Wisconsin dairy farmer. So 7 generations later, that's all the Mullins family has ever done is Wisconsin dairy. So there were 3 generations of dairy farmers turned into the next 4 generations of cheesemakers. And maybe my kids are going to want to be distillers, who knows? But it's all kind of funded in part by that 10 head of cattle to kind of start that American dream, which I think is a lot of what people can relate to. And especially in our area with the dairy background, most people, even if you don't live on a dairy farm, have an aunt and uncle, a grandma and grandpa, someone that comes from a dairy background.
Well, and it pulls to kind of an honest lineage and seeing how it progressed over time to what you're using it for. Because there are all too many farms here and plenty other places that have fallen by the wayside and do not have that same type of finish. So that historical pull is cool, but like I said, it's neat how it's developed itself over time.
Yeah,
I don't want to say rebranded, but brought stuff in. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry about that, everybody. Morgan, Mitch, what do you think on this one?
I just tried it with the cheese. So,
well, what do you think? Because I did that too. That's why I was trying to punt before I let my mouth.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to punt back.
Fine, Mike, you go.
Oh, I was just writing stuff down. It's like there's you get like orange and coriander, but again, there's something different about it, and I'm trying to remember what the citrus reminds me of, because it's not just orange. There's like a certain orange thing in my old memory that I'm trying to get back.
Is it the type of orange with that like orange chocolate thing where there was like
No.
It was too.
This is way classier than that.
Well, yeah, I just was I thought you were going for something like it. Sorry.
No.
I was gonna yell at you. Sure.
This is almost more of a clementine orange than an actual orange for me.
Yes.
Do you guys get any of the lemon coming through? There's a fair amount of lemon coming through too.
Yep, I get that on definitely. Whoa, yeah, definitely more on my left nostril when I get to the side, but I can see where you guys are playing because I'm getting a little more bit of a. It's a little bit of like a grapefruit hidden behind the other two.
Yeah.
But it's very more. This is why I like this one, because for being more of like the standard gin, this is a little bit brighter for me, and not as heavy on some of the standard
We tried a number of different junipers, trying to find which one was the right fit for us. And I love to go local wherever we can, but there was an Italian juniper that we got that we just couldn't match from the roundness of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, that pine, the sharp pine, gets them. So if the juniper is going to be the largest absolutely the largest component that's within this, we wanted to make sure it was one we really, really loved. And we found that this one just kind of gave us a roundness that we didn't get from all junipers.
Yeah. I like that about yours, because I obviously you have to have juniper, but it's there. It's like what's holding everything up without being in your face.
Right.
And it's just, yeah.
And there is a lot of juniper in this, but that's where the selection of what juniper to use really played a part for us. And then there's a couple Wisconsin natives that I don't expect you to be able to pick up because, again, they kind of play in the rounding of it. But the little tweak we wanted to make it a little more ours is that we actually use a little bit of birch bark in it, as well as some ginseng from a farmer just down the street. So we're in Marathon County, and if for any of you that aren't from the area, Marathon County is the largest ginseng producer in the whole U.S. In Wisconsin. So ginseng is all over around us. And it kind of just gave it like a little warm, earthy spice note that I thought married nicely with those other wooded flavors you get in the natural profile of the gin. So we wanted to put a little bit of stamp on it without venturing too far outside of the norms of what you'd expect for this kind of style.
Sorry, there's a family of raccoons that just went through my yard.
I was watching you. I could tell it was.
I was not expecting that. Sorry.
Squirrel.
Sorry, prancing up to my back door. So I was.
They wanted some cheese gin too.
They can have some later.
No, they can't. Get your
I might
balls
leave some.
up.
I share.
Don't forget to leave gin and cheese out for the raccoons.
They'll be coming back all the time. Then I don't need that.
So I appreciate that earthy spice that comes through. It's fascinating that it's ginseng and birch bark. I also really like that you went more lemon with this, because even though I do love orange, I do think lemon just pairs really well with what is in this gin. And random thing about ginseng and gin, it's actually in the Castle and Key. Their first gin that they put out that won all those awards, they put a bunch of ginseng in there.
Nice. Our ginseng farmers will be happy to hear that. They're always looking for good uses for the ginseng.
It's
Good luck, right? I haven't heard of a lot of ginseng things. I'm going to be really blunt there.
Well, normally, when people come and they taste it on a tour and then I say it's ginseng, they're like, oh, so this is healthy then. This is a health food. I was like, sure, let's go with that.
Yes.
If you buy more, yes.
I did that too.
I'm 67.
My friend Sean, who was just willing to try whatever, and I was like, we went to Great Northern has their ginseng whiskey, and I'm like, well, you're not going to try this anywhere else. I'm like, he's like, whew. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it is, but I'm like, if you were into it, and that's the closest I could see you calling a healthy spirit.
Sure.
I'm like, plus I'm like, it does really well overseas, but this, like, it hidden in here is really nice, and I want to guess the birch bark.
Well, and birch bark's interesting because birch bark doesn't give you a woody note necessarily. No. Birch bark actually, I was surprised the first time I infused it into a spirit. It gives you almost a sarsaparilla note. So, I mean, just like obviously the base originally for root beer, sarsaparilla came from sarsaparilla for the bark. Birch bark has more of that characteristic than it does like an oak or something like that. So it kind of just plays under there.
Yeah.
So growing up, there used to be a really cheap birch beer that was sold in grocery stores near me. That was like, you get a 1 liter for like 69 cents. So I grew up drinking birch beer.
Sure.
So like this is fond memories. Right?
And did the birch beer taste like sarsaparilla?
Oh yeah. Okay. It was like a licorice-free root beer, right?
Sure. Most people don't have it. They're always surprised when they say that. So, but it was nostalgic for you, I guess.
You said sarsaparilla. That's what the there's a spice, and I know spice is a generic note, but there's like a specific spice, and what it reminds me of is we used to drink Barks root beer,
Sure.
and it had that spice on it and then you had like the underlying notes of the, of root beer, but it had just that specific spice to it, and brought back a fat kid memory, which was good. So
Those kind of memories sound delicious.
We'll have a few more throughout the show.
yeah. Very good. Pairs very well with cheese too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It kind of tamps down the slightly earthy note of like the ginseng and the birch bark, and it lets kind of the juniper, lemon, and I don't want to say floral because the other one was so floral, but just the lighter notes really sing when you have it with the cheese.
Mine's a little bit creamier. The cheddar kind of overwhelms that part a bit, but it lightens. Definitely plays well. It just,
Yes.
I don't know. I know it's the cheese, but part of me wants to melt this down into a fondue and kind of mix it with some of the gin or something. I'm sorry. There's something here that I haven't pegged yet, but I got to figure out how to put it together.
You let me know, because that actually sounds to be something cool. So when you try that out and you optimize your recipe, then pass it on. I'll let you do all the troubleshooting on how to make that happen.
So what's
handle
your
that.
favorite snack with your spirits? Like what's your go-to?
Oh, well, we do so when anyone takes a tour here, we certainly do a cheese pairing during the tour. Obviously, it's a natural part of the story. When we start, we talk about where it's coming from and that it is the milk sugar from the cheese making process. Cheese with our spirits makes a natural fit, although I don't think that all cheeses pair well. So I actually wasn't even sure what my sister had sent you. But what else is my favorite fit? You're asking me a hard question. We do have lots of pairings because we have 15 different cocktails on our menu. And in fact, because we have a scratch kitchen, then the chef and our bartending staff select the right pair for each meal. And they depend not just on the drink itself, but then when you turn that into a cocktail and it has a whole different life of its own, that very much skews what you're with, right?
Yum.
But what's yours? That's what I'm curious. And do you have like a secret trashy one that you're?
Oh yeah,
that
if you're like Wendy's,
we have trashy
Cheetos
snacks
or
that we like to.
something like
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I mean, we did a Little Debbie and whiskey pairing episode, so we definitely have our things.
There's no boundaries on this one.
No boundaries.
No, doesn't matter what.
No boundaries of taste. That's
Spill the tea. Let us know.
Yeah.
I think probably just because it's got the pretzel. One of the things my husband really loves are combos with like the pretzel and the totally fictitious cheese that's inside of it.
Yeah, so that's the second point. Which flavor combo is the best?
Well, I personally disagree with the use of the pretzels. I think it should be the crackery ones instead with the cheese.
I gotta see that.
I would never ever suggest that to anyone that came to the distillery, but do we occasionally have those around our house, and do we occasionally eat them while we're drinking? Yes to both these questions.
Okay.
There we go.
I thought you were gonna say like you take the bugles and you guys have to put them on your fingers.
Put on your fingers.
And then you dip it in the gin. Yeah.
Again, I do have a house full of 4 children, so young children. So there's definitely plenty of bugle fingers, but I'm not allowed to dip in.
Yeah.
Quite yet.
Like goldfish and gin.
Lose a tooth, okay. Let's get the bugle to stop the crying.
Some great parenting tools right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure to go that far. Give your kid gin and bugles. Can you tell I'm not a parent?
Yeah. I can tell you shouldn't be. No.
You're like that uncle that's like, I can get him to go to sleep.
The whole brandy wives' tale. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's not what you're supposed to try.
We're not endorsing that on this show.
No.
I mean, I am endorsing dipping bugles in gin and eating it, just not giving it to your children.
Fair.
All right, I'm gonna switch over to the rum cask finish one. And one other thing I know that I haven't touched on, and I know you can't tell us which one, but how long did it take you to find the right type of yeast to work with the products you're doing right here? Because I think that would be difficult, and since you're doing things step by step with everything else, I can imagine you probably had a slew of that as well too.
Sure. It did take me quite a while. So as we mentioned, there's 12 to 15 people worldwide that are using this. And so there's not a playbook, right? There's not suppliers that are saying, oh, I'm going to sell you this yeast and this is how you do the job. My science background and my fermentation background had me understanding the approach that people were taking, but it's as broad as saying, like, if you were a brewer and saying, well, I use Saccharomyces. Well, that has so many different substrains you could choose from of yeast, right? So I was buying yeast from yeast banks and trying them all out with home brewing equipment at home for at least 2 years before I decided, like, this strain really has legs. It grows well, so we're going to propagate and grow up our own yeast. It consistently ferments really well, and you can collect it afterwards if you'd like. So there's a number of parts to make it not just ferment it, but also make sure that it's commercially viable so it works in your production process, right? So I'd say about 2 years in a garage using small scale home brewing equipment and just kind of growing up that yeast and trying it over and over on small batches to figure out what the right fit was.
Yeah. Well, I would think so, because you're breaking down things that aren't necessarily the same that you'd have with other yeasts. Like
right.
When you break through the first one, you have to get to, I forget the TED Talk you had, so forgive me.
Is that what we call the TED Talk? Yeah, so if you think about milk sugar, so lactose, it's actually two smaller sugars stuck together, basically. So standard brewing and distilling yeast won't ferment that. And so that's really where the creativity had to come into play to really work through that process and what was the right fit. Our distillation, although it's meticulous, it's a pretty traditional distillation process. It really was the fermentation that we had to work out, because normal brewing and distilling yeast will just leave that sugar behind. Like, I mean, if you drank milk stout, I know you guys are beer drinkers as well, but, you know, brewers add milk sugar, lactose to their beer so that it will leave that sweetness. But I want my yeast to do the opposite of that. I want my yeast to eat all the sugar and turn it into alcohol. So that was a bit of an endeavor to find the right yeast strain. So my husband married me for my brewing skills. That's what I'll say. I didn't marry him for his milk sugars. He married me for my brewing skills.
Sounds like heaven, right? Like, so your fermentation, do you find you have to ferment like longer or at a like wildly different temperature or anything like that to break down those milk sugars?
We don't. We ferment. Our fermentation is normally done in about 4 days. Typically, we give it 6 days to make sure it's fully fermented out. But it's not a significantly longer fermentation. We do ferment warm. We ferment actually about 90 degrees. Which is warmer than most, but we do control that. We don't just let it free rise. We do have a temperature control on it to keep it at what the optimal is for the type of yeast that we're using.
I meant to ask that, but I might have been a little drunk when you had your TED Talk. I'm going to be
after all of that, sensory analysis you had been doing all day long.
Yeah, we're going to call it that. A lot of sensory analysis.
Mm-hmm.
A hostile amount of sensory analysis.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Hey,
Okay,
everyone.
so this one is which? This is which gin? This is the rum finish gin.
Woodland. So in fact, so far, Woodland's the only one I've used in any of our cask finish series, and we actually haven't even launched this one yet. So you guys are in the know. We're planning to launch this one late summer.
Okay. So have you found
type of option?
I'm sorry. Have you found any like really weird or unique casks that you are incredibly excited to try finishing in or anything like that?
The one that I was most excited even with the concept of it was mezcal, because I just felt like that little bit of smoke that you get in that would come over, like lingering from that mezcal, would round with those wooded notes that we have in the woodlands. Nicely. I was a little bit afraid to lay down the meadow cut yet in the barrel, because I was worried that brightness and lightness might be lost or overshadowed by what had been in the barrel first. So we do have the meadow cut laying in like a lighter Irish whiskey barrel right now. Like what would be the right note so that it doesn't overwhelm it, but add some interesting elements. The only one that we went bolder with is the Woodland, where we've tried it with bourbon, we've tried it with a couple different types of rum, we've tried it with a couple mezcals. That was where I started the journey, and we're still very much in the early phases. We even have a bourbon that we use here on site, which we use those barrels when we're done for some of our whiskeys that we're laying down, for one of our blended whiskeys we're laying down. And that bourbon, we put in a couple things like blackberry brandy barrels, an Islay whiskey barrel. So just kind of seeing what some of those notes are. And you have to go into the game accepting that there's going to be a few barrels that you're like, nope, that wasn't it. And you have to accept that you might not want to put that out at all. And it might, unfortunately make its way to a drain. And although it might still be all right, it's not the thing that you're so excited that you want to put it out to the public with, right? So accepting that going in, that's part of the R&D of it, is, like a little bit disappointing to know that it's not all going to make it, but it also ensures you get the stuff that you're really excited about to make it to the end.
So I remember talking to you about this because you were the first tent I went to.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming while your sensory analysis is still fresh.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, I remember liking this last year, but I don't remember much else, right? Sure. So I was like, well, it's fresh. I'm going to go talk to them. So this was originally not a rum cask, right? It was a wine cask, I believe.
Yes, so this rum, so I tried a couple different rums. This rum started its life as a white wine before it became a rum barrel, and now is becoming a gin finishing barrel. So it's had a few different lives, and we found that the rum that we got out of this cask was different than we tried some brown sugar rum and a rum that came originally from a bourbon barrel before it was rum, because rum normally already lived a life before it came to rum aging. So finding the nuances there and how they could become different things was kind of fun. This one I really loved, just that sweetness that it added to it, that kind of coated a little bit of candy coating around that woodland experience. I don't know what your take on it was, but that was something I kind of liked about this rum specifically.
For me on this one, sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
Oh, I was just gonna say I really like. Well, I'm a sucker for rum finished anything, but yeah, it's because your spirit is so marshmallow fluff sweetness that kind of carries through. It's nice to get a different sweetness that helps, kind of elevate it. And rum, along with that, slight white wine. I mean, I'm not going to say grape, but there's almost a super mild fruit sweetness that's not citrusy in there. And it's delightful to get layers of sweetness, right? I've very rarely heard people be upset about candy, right?
and this one, I mean, it gives it almost like that candy, but then as you'd expect from a barrel, some of that caramel, kind of brown sugar crusted note to that candied finish. Yeah.
No, and I could be nuts because this is to Mike and Mitch and Morgan, like not the same smell, but maybe along the same lines. Remember that spiced pear brandy? How it's got fruit.
The St. George.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you have these other neat, like little baking spices coming up from underneath it. I just get this really cool. It's like a brown sugar bear claw with this awesome pastry inside. It almost tastes like the lemon and blackberry with like frosting on top. Sorry, I don't know where I went there. That's what I was getting off this. I was just going down this.
See, I was
rabbit
getting
hole of flavors.
Yeah, and on the nose, I was getting it. It was like almost like an orange liqueur with lemon on the nose, and then when I was on the palate, I was like orange candy, hard candy, and then it's like a candy shell, and then I start getting the brown sugar, and what it reminds me of is the again, fat kid note, the candy shell on a Boston baked bean, because it's just like baked brown sugar on the outside of that.
I'm gonna have to show my ignorance and say I thought Boston baked beans were just like a competitor to Bush's baked beans.
How dare you, sir?
I'm a terrible person, man.
I'm taking away your fat kid card.
Please do. I need to stop.
Who came up with the idea to make something called baked beans as a candy, though? Isn't that kind of crazy? Like, whose idea was that?
Well, if it's truly from Boston, it was probably a joke. So,
you would hope.
Yeah.
I feel like with the cheese, at least the cheddar, the white cheddar that we have, it's almost kind of like like the top of a creme brulee. That's kind of the notes getting, that like burnt sugar, but also like the under part of the creme brulee of that ooey gooey goodness too. So, yeah, this is real good with cheese. This might have to be like early afternoon snack. So just making the way through the day.
Every 2 hours, she's like, "We have a drink and some cheese."
Right.
Just me, not my team.
Yeah.
Just me.
Your
It's because
supervisor
every
say,
3
Morgan,
hours
who's this
she's
10 head
trying
you're
to-
meeting with every 2 hours?
You should watch out the meetings. Nice.
Oh, it's very good with cheese. Holy
Oh,
cow.
this is probably my favorite with cheese so far.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, it's very.
I'm just-
Also, pro tip: if you're making creme brulee and you want to change it up because you have too much creme brulee and it's just normal to you now, try brown sugar on top. Like I had a brown sugar creme brulee. It is surprisingly delicious. That little molasses note does very well.
That sounds good. I don't think that's surprising. I think that's you sold it already.
I think this actually reminds me more of the brown sugar creme brulee than a regular creme brulee.
Do you have elderberries in this too?
Nope.
There's some. There must be from the way. I have so much more research to do.
Wow.
All right. So I see we're at an hour, so we're going to speed this up because we appreciate the time you're donating to us this evening, and we do not want to keep you on too horribly long. But we saved my favorite one for last because I absolutely loved this mezcal one when I had it at Distill America. What you were mentioning before, how the smoky kind of creamy notes with that wrap well with the milk sugar finish from this, but how it plays with the rest of the gin. I think it's fantastically played together. It's one of the things that when people ask me what I was most excited about, I was like, go over here. Go try this, and you come talk to me in 15 minutes. And that's usually the way I like to do it. And they're like, oh, shit, you were right. I'm like, I know. What did you find?
It always hurts when people were like, "Oh my goodness, you were right," and you're like, you make it sound like you're very surprised that I could be right.
Wow.
The nose is so wildly different, yet so there's such a similar background to it.
And it's actually the exact same lot and everything of the woodland. When we did the experiments and we laid it into a bunch of different barrels, I really wanted it to all come from the exact same stock. And then we saved, we bottled actually a small portion just into regular woodland bottles so that we'd have the baseline to compare and see how the barrels really affected things. Again, science geek, I like my experiments to be controlled, but it's fun then to say like, okay, it's not like there's a variance in the gin itself. It's really all of those differences are coming just from the barrel. Yeah.
Can I ask how long you ended up keeping them in the barrel, or is that a little bit of a proprietary thing?
No, because we obsessed over that with gin, because gin, I don't want to say gin has an expiration, but it definitely has a peak, right? You really want to serve your gin at a perfect time before you start to have some of those flavors get muted and slowly fade. So in my opinion, you don't actually want your gin in barrels for too long. So we started tasting it about 2 months. In about 4 months, we decided this is perfect. We're ready to rock on this. And they weren't actually the same time. We pulled the mezcal first, and then we pulled the rum about 3 weeks after that we were just weekly checking them and trying to decide when we felt like they were at their optimum, which is tricky the first time because you're always a little bit afraid to let them go past their optimal. Like I keep thinking it's getting better and better, but what happens if next week it wasn't better? And so that was a bit of a trick. But yeah, so the rum was about 3.5 months, and then the mezcal was a little over 4. Which is fun from an experiment standpoint when you think about whiskey and how long you're waiting for your whiskey, that you could have a really meaningful impact on that finished note with the rum in what ultimately is a relatively short amount of time compared to what you're doing with whiskeys.
Okay, like with either one of these two, when you're talking a month or two, that's not long. And some of them can even be like 3 weeks, and you're like, well, that is enough. But I love it. It kind of damps down a little bit of the gin note coming in, because I get a little bit of that edge of that smoky, creamy bit from the mezcal kind of overlaying that top part. And then it kind of has to like reopen up into the gin. It has like this neat, almost like capping affection. I get like this creamy, like a vanilla bean, but also almost like a.
See, no, to me, it noses more like a gin finished tequila.
Okay. Well, I mean that fits right with the mezcal.
And yeah, no, it does. It feels at first I was like almost as like a gin finished brandy just because of that. There's the fruit notes and everything was coming out in it. It's like, okay, then it just what it smells like is I like to use rum in place of vanilla for baking. And some rums that are really high in vanilla. I thought I'm gonna make some cookies.
Did you make cookies with this?
No.
Oh, well,
I'm just now trying this. I am just now trying this for the first time.
And then we're gonna have cookies. It's gonna be great.
Cookies, cheese, and gin. Okay, so we have our afternoon snack now.
Yeah, what's your 2:00 look like, Morgan? Does that fit?
Let's see. Yep, I just cleared my calendar.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have to admit, I was a little afraid to try this because I'm not a huge mezcal person, to be totally transparent. I think this is probably my favorite thing that I've tried tonight. Just the smokiness, especially paired with the cheese. Like I think this guy's just opened in the heavens saying, I know Mitch is downstairs, but, it did in the bedroom I'm sitting in upstairs. This is fantastic. Like, hands down, my favorite thing I've tried tonight. So, the smokiness, the creaminess, just all of the above that his, coming out of the glass paired with the cheese. I'm honestly speechless other than I can't. Well, what I want to say is probably not YouTube friendly. But
we're past 5 minutes, Morgan. We're past 5 minutes.
They can't flag us.
Yeah, they don't do that.
This is really effing delicious. So,
thank
yes.
I like how it was all that, and on the second half, it opens back up into that almost little like meringue notes. On the finish, where that kind of comes back, it has it's almost like it almost feels reversed because it's like creamy and neat and tight up front, and then all opens back up herbal and light and lemon notes and stuff. And like I reeled that meringue comes back on the second half for me.
So I like this one has a texture journey because I think it starts creamy and then the tannin structure comes in and it gives it a little more of a tannin structure feel, and then it dissipates back into that creamy lusciousness, which is right. That's got to be hard to do. I've never had it from anything else, and it's really fun and interesting.
But
I'm glad you said that because you're right. I get more tannin out of this one than any of the other ones that certainly we've tried, and so that just that little moment of shining.
Yeah,
it's
pretty good.
Well, now you guys, you already have it. You guys have a secret sneak peek bottle. Now you have to come up and see us at the distillery when we launch it. So these aren't out until late summer. We're going to do some sort of fun, like I think hot summer night sort of pairing of some of our appetizers and food that chef will do a pop-up menu so it can pair with these for the weekend to kind of do a little launch for it. So because these two are only at the distillery, so you won't find these ones for distribution.
Well, there are mules. Remember, people out there, there are mules. They can help you.
There are mules.
They've not needed them as much with some of the new shipping laws, but they exist for this explicit purpose. Because, just the way this goes I wouldn't add anything to this. Like this in and itself is perfectly fine in glass. People are saying, add this, make a cocktail with it. Just shut up with the glass and just hang out with it, and you will be 100% fine. Not that you couldn't use this in any other way, but the way this comes out, it feels very much like a cocktail with the combination of flavors in it to begin with. So to dilute or kind of change that, I don't know if it's necessary. Sorry, I just like it the way it is. Like this is one of the few gins I've been extremely happy with, just like all the way through. Like I love the other ones and a little more of the meadow cut. Obviously, I'm more of that side of things, but this, when I had it, almost made me think this was meadow cut because of some of the more lemon notes and stuff, and it was a little more rounded on there. I thought this is what was in this one originally rather than the other one, so that just makes it even cooler that this was the woodland dry.
Yeah, definitely would want to just sip on this, maybe with a little ice if it was a super hot day, and you're all set.
I'm lost.
With you.
I'm lost in this one. No, sorry, I didn't mean to jump on that, but yeah, this is outstanding. And your husband, the cheese is fantastic. This is totally going on.
Yeah. The
Burgers.
seventh generation guy, he's pretty good at it. But this,
Right. He's not alone. He's one of 4 boys. He works with his 3 brothers. So the fact that they still love each other at the end of the day, their parents did something right. So his dad, and the 4 brothers all cheese make together. So
he should probably like teach his noogie technique or something like that with working with 4 brothers.
Fair. He's the youngest of 4 as well. So I'm sure there was plenty of that. Yeah.
So they do some cheese smoking.
What's that?
They do some cheese smoking.
Yeah.
Do they ever use the barrels for the cheese smoking?
I mean, think about the fact that I'm a baby compared to what they're doing. They have not played with that at all. But that I do like that. It's a fun concept.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, you're in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Please age something in a brandy barrel.
So we are at right now. I actually have some bourbon in a blackberry brandy barrel, as kind of like an old fashioned, the ultimate old fashioned bourbon, to kind of play with that. Because currently we don't make any brandy ourselves, but I hear you. Point has been taken.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it with gin yet, but.
Well, I mean, you've got lovely, citrus notes in your gin, and brandy is obviously a sweet, not citrus note. It could work really well, or it could be an idiot.
We'll find out. I'll let you know if it happens.
You're gonna call next week, Mitch. You fucked up.
Uh-huh.
You get told that every day. Don't worry.
That was a bad idea.
Just think, it was a bad idea that made it through all the filters and out my mouth. Like, I have so many more bad ideas every day.
Oh, I thought you were just meant like at a company. I'm like, that does happen all too often where stuff comes out and you're like, this was your guys' best idea.
But someone laughed at those Boston baked beans, and it made it through all the filters.
Shoot, and it's still fucking good.
People loved them. Apparently.
Yeah.
All right, I'm finishing.
Wow, that's
up
got
here.
a great finish.
Did you? Oh, are you doing the blend?
I did do the blend.
Okay.
So
Almost
a lot of times we'll blend no matter what they are, all the
You mix
spirits
them
of the
together.
night.
You're mixing all of the leftovers together. Okay.
Equal amounts.
as
Equal-ish.
close as you can.
We're not quite as
Equal-ish.
scientific as you are,
No.
unfortunately.
All right.
Well, mine is a little more muted on the nose. But I think mine might be a little vodka heavy.
I say it depends on how much fat goes in there. Yeah.
That was my base glass.
I drank all of my samples. Normally, I'm pretty good about not doing that. But honestly, these are so complex, and every sip is a little bit different. And I was trying to take bigger sips because the bigger sip I took, the more different the gin was.
Sure.
So instead of just doing those like hot coffee sips, I was taking some, and it was like, oh, this is really, and then my glass would run out. And it was like, oh, might not. Okay, well, I'll do the blend anyway at the end.
Okay,
If there was only somebody else nearby you who had samples.
I said
Oh,
the
they're all
big enough
downstairs.
ones.
Morgan-
You guys should be okay.
Morgan poured hers first because she was like, I want much of the mezcal. Mezcal's disgusting.
Do you guys have to wait till we're on here to have tried? So Morgan, you hadn't tried them at all until you were here right now.
Correct.
Fresh. Okay, cool.
So
We try to do that to have an honest
Yeah, I love that.
reaction of what's going on rather than, well, that's like you said. You'll see Mike taking down notes as he's going with what's going on and other stuff. So we try to do it. Now the combo for me on this one. What was the name of that bar we were at? That cocktail bar that everyone was very excited about on Friday.
Public
night?
parking.
Public parking. That one drink I had later on out of that tea kettle, where it tasted more like water.
Wisconsin sake.
Yeah, Wisconsin sake, whatever that was. We had this smells completely different, but this is kind of tastes like that. This tastes like a really light flavored cucumbered water, almost with like a little bit of
Yeah.
herbal notes, herbal flavor in the background, but it's light. it's fucking dangerous. Whatever this is.
that's it was the for me it's actually very it's cool on the palate. Like and my thought was, okay, if I had this with ice, this would be really bad. It'd be very refreshing, but also very bad.
Yeah, this is an 80 proof cocktail.
Yeah.
With no ice right now. So yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, like well, I liked everything you guys had, so it rarely does that go all together and turn out poorly. It has happened. There's been twice that we came out afraid.
Well, especially if there's like we didn't hit you with anything that's like dramatically flavored or something that then you mix
right.
It, they clash. Yeah.
Speaking of that, are you planning on coming out with anything that's dramatically flavored?
That's a great question. Right now, we're working on a number of distillery exclusives. I think we really want for our distillery exclusives things that we are fresh and seasonal, and that doesn't always travel for distribution. So right now we're actually just launching, we call the series Bring the House Home. So the distillery itself is named Knowlton House, right? So Bring the House Home is sort of, if you came and you enjoyed your cocktail experience, there's some things you can take home. We have a specialty cocktail here that we call milk punch that we can actually send bottles home, as well as a couple liqueurs that we're launching for the summer. So a strawberry rhubarb liqueur. So some of those fresh Wisconsin flavors that just fit the season so perfectly. So those right now are sitting as distillery exclusives. Our distributors, of course, are hitting this up that, maybe we should do, just a one-off here and there where we do something fun for the season that we do distribute a limited release of. So I think we'll get there. But at least right now we're starting them out with just at the distillery first.
Emily's got a question. I hadn't popped it up before.
They have whole whey protein. They do.
That's awesome.
She's ready. Free Morgan.
That's awesome.
I might be drooling over the strawberry rhubarb, just the thought of it. So that's literally my favorite pie on the whole entire planet. Anything strawberry rhubarb ends up in our house. So
Sure. Okay. Well, when you come up to see me to get your mezcal bottle, you get your strawberry rhubarb too.
we will
Is that limited to like a household or like one person? Or
there's no limits as long as you get it in the season until we run out.
Okay.
See, there's none of that here.
So now Morgan's leaving me behind so she can travel.
She has more room in the car.
That'll be opposite of what Mitch normally does. So she just wants to have room in the trunk for the trip.
You trying to say ice travel in the trunk, man?
No, I'm saying you fill up the trunk with booze when you go places.
Well, that's the point of vacation, isn't it?
That's true.
I didn't get that wrong, did I?
No.
Well, most people bring the bottles home. They don't take them from their house to everybody else.
Bring them to the distillery.
Well, I feel like they're doing it wrong.
Mitch likes to bring bottles to distilleries and bars and then get the staff drunk.
Gotcha. Nice.
I don't like to try to get them on. That is entirely on them. I just give
It
them
just
the
coincidentally
opportunity.
happens after he's done.
Yeah. He just gives them a chance to sample things. That's all.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's up to you. How drunk you want to get?
Yeah.
And
It's
how
been
far
very
are you guys-
fun.
Yeah, and how far away are you guys from whiskey or other spirits you guys are working on?
Ooh, whiskey is continuously being laid down. It's just not ready yet. So we're taking the traditional path on that one. I don't anticipate we launch anything until at least 4 years, and then certainly holding stuff back for later releases after that. We'll see. I'm laying down 3 types of whiskey: a bourbon, a single malt, as well as a blended whiskey. Think more like an Irish style blended. So. Fun to come, but I'm impatient for that one. The idea that you have to sit and wait that many years has me so antsy. So we're lucky that there's lots of things to fill my time while I'm also doing that waiting, that there's a lot of other fun things to do in the meantime.
I'm intrigued as to what you guys picked for the malt, or how you guys approach that one. So, but I'll wait. I won't.
Wait, but I will say I gave you a hint because I told you that my favorite type of whiskey is a Speyside style Scotch. So I definitely took more of that traditionalist approach to my single malts. Something that's a little more balanced on that malty to fit in there, rather than just hitting it with a heavy oak.
Well, I know you used Heather in one of the other ones, so I'm kind of thinking. Never mind. I'm starting to think too much.
It's feeling a little Scottish.
I'm just saying that might come. You might use that in what you're doing with that as well too. That's all. So
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll wait.
With great dad jokes, always likes to say that Heather is the secret ingredient. So, to which he gets a lot of groans from that one. Yeah.
A good dad joke is judged on groans. So
That's right.
it gets a lot of
Yeah.
groans on it. It's a
Better it
great
is.
dad joke.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, Heather, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on the show and spending some time with us. And like I said, to your whole staff being extremely generous with their time. I know the people at Distill America were very helpful when I was there. And you guys are very spot on with what you've been doing the last couple of years. But this release of, we usually say when someone says they have a very good distillery, we usually judge that by if you're going to go there and grab something, no matter what you grab, is it going to be good? And with what you guys all have, there's not a bad bottle amongst anything that you guys have. So that is fantastic. And that does not happen very often. So congratulations on the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. You guys are fun.
We'll take it. That's what we go for.
Should put that on my dating profile.
Yeah.
Someone said I was fun once.
Don't talk to me that way. She said it was fun.
You didn't say it was surprise either, right? You said that it's not good. And they seem surprised when you have good ideas. You're fun. I'm not surprised. You seemed fun before I even met you.
All right. Well, if you haven't, make sure you keep an eye out for Knowlton House and 10 Head Spirits. I was going to say, if you get a chance to try some of their gins throughout Wisconsin, if you do want one of the rum or mezcal finished ones, please talk to your local Pony Express agent. They can probably help you out with that, as they usually do. So Heather, thank you so much for spending some of your time with us. We
Yes.
loved your products and the ideas that you guys are doing and the direction you're going is fantastic and unique. So thank you for doing something different.
Yeah. Cheers. Happy to.
All right. And remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey, or in this case, gin. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.